Day. And how do we know this? Because it is the #1 recommended brand by dentists. And with World Oral Health Day coming up, we are reminding you that a happy mouth is a happy mind. And to get this, Sensodyne is giving you 50% off select products, and that comes in from the 20th to the 23rd of March at any of the outlets of Chandarana, Naivas, Quickmart, or Carrefour, and you can get in and get your pack. Sensodyne for tooth sensitivity relief and everyday oral health. All right, we're getting into a conversation this hour, and SMEs have been front and center when it comes to building an economy and ensuring that the economy stays tip top when it comes to this kind of business. SMEs are right in the front and center. And we're having a conversation round about that this hour. And as we look into that, our guest will be seated in a few minutes, and we'll talk about that, what needs to be capacity building for the SME sector. And she's here with us this morning as the Business Banking Director for Absa Bank Kenya PLC. Elizabeth Wasuna Ochwa is in the hot seat this morning. Elizabeth, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Very good.
Yes.
Well, we're glad that you're in the hot seat this morning. Thank you for coming to the Situation Room. A number of issues that we're going to look through today and how they can actually be resolved. But you know what? CT. I'm going to tell you a secret. CT travels a lot, and every week he's in a different African country. You may have heard, and I'm here to tell you that it's actually true. And he comes back with a basket full of proverbs from a different country, and he is going to share one of those proverbs with you and tell you where that proverb is from. And then here's the juicy part. You get to interpret that proverb for us and tell us what it means to you. Good stuff, isn't it?
Good stuff.
Fantastic. See? CT, go.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi.
It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. It's been a long time coming.
It's been
My
quite
God.
a while.
Yes,
it
it
is
has.
lovely to see you.
So I hope you'll give me an easy one.
Nothing of that, nothing of
the
that
sort.
sort. Our proverbs for this week come from the Republic of the Sudan. Interesting country, this. It is located at the confluence of the Blue and the White Nile. Now, when you talk of the Nile, one thinks of a river, and one thinks of these rivulets and streams that we have that we call rivers. These rivers, you need to see the Nile in its glory, and to get a glimpse of it, you need to see the Congo River. These are huge water bodies. And that is the reason why when the Nile traverses its way right up to Egypt, it is so critical to the livelihood of those people. Critical, absolutely critical. Anyway, this country called Sudan has had problems. Since 17th November 1958, it has had coups. 7 in total. That's why it's part of the coup belt.
Coup belt.
Yes, we will be looking at one more country next week, part of the coup belt. This time we'll go to the Sahel. They also have countries that have had more coups than they can count. The proverb. O digger of a pit of wickedness, widen your lying place in it. Now let me repeat this and put the right punctuations so that the meaning is not lost. O digger of a pit of wickedness, widen your lying place in it. Elizabeth, now what you need to do...
And the digger is...
What do you think this proverb means?
I think from an SME perspective,
Yes.
SMEs have a lot of struggles, and so that speaks to the pit. And therefore, it's important that the SMEs widen their knowledge base to enable them get out of the pit.
Because if you don't, you're going to be in the pit.
You'll be in the pit for a very long time.
Oh my goodness. I love it. Wow.
You know, you've actually made this proverb. It's as though the proverb was meant for SMEs.
I was like, a proverb from SMEs today.
It actually comes from Sudan.
Okay, so that's great. And coming into, the subject that we talk about today, when we talk about capacity building, and every time we hear capacity building, it just sounds like, buzzword that people sitting around a conference table with their water and your notebook are going to be talking about. It sounds like, one of those. However, when we talk about SMEs, essentially, we talk about corporations, we talk about organizations that have built entire economies upon which economies rely on. And this is private sector business. So when we're talking about capacity building in the SME sector, it's broad. At the same time, it's detailed. So can we just do an overview for the very beginning, Elizabeth, and say, when we talk about capacity building for the SME sector, what are we saying?
Yeah, I think that's a very good place to start, and because, when we talk about learning today, and to your point, we've been bombarding SMEs with a lot. We take them to class, we get the online with them, and there's just a lot of learning from that perspective. But the truth is, if you look at SMEs, for any business to thrive, you have to have the right base. If I look historically at how a lot of our SMEs start, it starts from a Me Too situation. When you see somebody opening a shop and they're selling, electricals, you say Me Too. You see salons, Me Too. But the truth is, do you have the base of being able to run a business in a challenging environment as we find ourselves, in an environment where there are lots of things that are thrown into your direction? Do you have the base? And a lot of the time, a lot of SMEs then end up, running their businesses because somebody has told you, you've seen your friend walking the journey. But the truth is, the base of running a sustainable business over a lifetime and beyond you don't have. You don't have. So, when I was interacting with SMEs along the way, when you ask them, for instance, do you take a holiday? Simple things like that. No, there's no time for holiday. What does your HR base look like? Who runs your HR? It's me. What do you know about HR? Nothing. Who do you hire? My relatives. Do they have the knowledge? No, I'll take them to school. I mean, there are all these little mistakes that speak to not having the correct base to run a business. And then coupled on with that, and this is something I always share with people, is that you name the business after yourself. For instance, I would name my business Elizabeth and Daughters. And there you are.
Beth's Girls.
Beth Girls. Sounds good.
You could hire me to be your
PLC,
guy. You see? Yeah.
But the truth is, you yes.
Or call it Ndoko.
There you go. As you name your business, with your name, wouldn't you expect your business to go beyond you? But a lot of these businesses, and we've seen the statistics that say SMEs business, if they go past 7 years, that's amazing. Amazing. Most of them, first year, second year, struggles down. So I say this because it's important to then say, how do we set the base for SMEs to learn and relearn the right things?
That's interesting, that number that you've given. If you say, if an SME, and are these Kenyan numbers that we are looking at, if an SME if it goes beyond 7 years, that's amazing.
This is a Kenyan story, and 7 years is being generous, huh?
And if we put this against some SMEs, some of the things that we use today, we look at them and we think that they are government-funded organizations, but they are SMEs.
Yeah, SMEs.
Some of the machines that we use every day, the mobile phones that we use, things like that, started in somebody's garage.
Absolutely.
Years ago, but those are actually SMEs.
Yeah.
And they've lived for 50 years.
Absolutely.
So what's the difference? Why 7 versus 50?
SMEs that get the right structure, the right support, thrive. And that's the basis of our conversation at the bank. You have to support SMEs, not just by a one-off. It has to be intentional. It has to be structured. It has to speak to the challenges that they have. And the challenges are many. Challenges that we know, some of them we don't know. For instance, COVID, we didn't know. But guess what? SMEs that were supported with the right structure have thrived. They've gone over the problems. Even corporates today. No corporate today says that they haven't gone through challenges. But the difference is they have the support. They have partnerships. They have people who understand the issues that they're going through and therefore extend them grace. This is something that SMEs don't necessarily have across space.
But let me ask the question, because this is something that has always puzzled me. How does a business entity qualify to be an SME?
Look, any business that starts, the minute you start, you're an SME. You're small enterprise, and that's it.
Oh, come on. I'm baking cookies out of my oven. I'm an SME?
Yes. You're a micro SME, but you're an SME all the same. Yeah. And the thing is, the minute you start formalizing it into a formalized registered business, then you're saying, I want to be here longer. So it's not a hobby anymore. When you talk about sometimes, baking, it could be a hobby, right? But when you want to go into something that transcends beyond just a hobby, then you formalize it and you become an SME structured, recognized by government or recognized by the entity wherever you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about SMEs, and there's something that you mentioned in terms of the structures that are needed in place, and you find a lot of SMEs, it's always, it's my business, I'm going to run it, I'm going to bring my friends to run this biashara. You don't play by the rules, I fire you. But here you bring the entire spectrum of who is your HR, who's handling your accounts, who is helping you market your business. And this goes into an SME would think, this is a cost that I'm not ready to incur at the moment, yet you say it is the very foundation that will make a business go beyond the 7 years and even into the future. So how would an SME handle that aspect?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the truth of the matter is, when you start a business, it's not because you're going to hide your head in the sand. Yes. You need to know how your business will thrive. The issues around, skiving or, running away from the the regulators or the taxpayers, it's not a sustainable business. It's not a sustainable action. So I would encourage SMEs, whoever is starting business, to tap into knowledge around how to run a business properly. Now the question is whether you want to run it properly or not, but at least you have the knowledge. And the knowledge is available in so many ways. And I think this is where organizations such as ours, banks, we are opening up our doors today more than ever to train SMEs, have conversations with them. I say have conversations because a lot of the times we come in with the view that we want to tell you. But I think it's also important for us to learn from you. Tell us what you're going through. Then we can walk the journey together. And then we can have a conversation around what are your problems? What are you going through today? How can I help you? How can I extend the influence I have in your area? So there's a lot that we do in terms of walking the journey. And the key pillars, for instance, in our Absa proposition for SMEs is park the financing part, because that is something that we do because it's our business. But over and above that, there's a non-financial part that we have to take care of. So access to mentoring and coaching is important. Access to markets that we have is important. Access to information, access to networking. These are things that SMEs need to thrive, and indeed any business. But from an SME area, it's important to reach them at where they are, and then learn and walk the journey with them with the information that we have.
How did Absa arrive at this proposition?
Look,
okay, let me get back on what I'm asking, because this is mind-boggling new. Banks, by their very existence, in my experience, never thought in this way.
True.
They told you what to do and how it is they well, they didn't actually tell you. You figured out how banks function somewhere along the way. So when you are telling me that Absa Bank has taken the initiative to listen, to ask questions, to talk to their clients, this is new. I'm interested. What happened? How did you people have this road to Damascus experience?
It's actually a no-brainer. Let's start from there, because when you look at the statistics, it tells you that 80% of businesses opening up in Kenya today are SMEs. They then go and hire a lot of workforce, youth, right? So we sat down as a team, as leadership in the bank. This is over 5 years ago. And asked ourselves, as we transition from Barclays Bank brand into Absa, what can we do different? And this is one of those areas that we found there's a lot of potential, yet limited resources and limited focus. And then we went into statistics and data and asked ourselves, if we wanted to grow from a banking perspective, where do we need to support? And at that time, stars were aligned as well, because government is speaking the same story. They want to be able to support businesses. And there are lots of NGOs, DFIs who are willing to come in. But then we asked ourselves, what are we then intentionally doing around SMEs? So we got some of our partners into a room and said, let's look around and see, where do we start? and how do we show up? But most importantly, who are we targeting and how do we target them and how do we reach them in a impactful and sustainable manner? So a lot of conversations were taking place. And at that time, I then joined the bank. And I remember with our MD, Jeremy Awori, he says, listen, this is an area we want to focus on because we see the opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And the team sat down and said, we need to be here intentionally. So with that, we got in our advisors and said we want an SME proposition, but these are the key things that we want to be able to deal. So yes, we can do the financial space, but I think there's a space for non-financial. Let's structure it. And that speaks to the 4 pillars we then created or used to support our proposition. We've talked about access to markets, access to mentoring and coaching, and access to networking. These are the things SMEs asked for.
Yeah.
And we said we must then show up. It's one thing to give money, and we've seen that, and you've seen the pitfalls. But then there's another way that you can be able to say, in the event of challenges, where do these guys go to? They need to know that they have partners who can support them. The partners who gave them money should be able to support them also, in able to access these things. So hence our proposition of Absa SMEs.
So how do folks in the SME space then access these opportunities? Where are they going? Are they sitting in a conference hall somewhere? Where are they going? Are they coming to the branch? How are they clicking into these spaces that could essentially help them?
We've tried to use a blend of the two. We've said yes, we call them into conferences when we think it's important. And any conference and any meeting that we've called in intentionally across our 85 branches, incidentally, is one that speaks to come and listen to what others are speaking about and let's have a conversation. There are others where we've said, let's look for partners who know where SMEs are. So we have partners like Kenya National Chamber of Commerce. We've walked the journey with them in being able to access SMEs across Kenya. We've used partners, for instance, in areas where, KEPSA, Kenya Association of Manufacturers as well. We've used partnerships around those. We've looked for partnerships also for women because we're also big on women conversations, and I'm sure we'll speak a little bit about that later. But it speaks to who knows where these SMEs are and who can we partner with to ensure that we can reach them.
Right.
Government too. We've walked the journey with government to be able to access the SMEs. And so, yes, there's a place for smaller groups. And yes, there's a place for bigger groups where we think it's important.
Okay. So what do they learn? This is because I can say this is my problem, but what am I actually learning that will then make it possible? I'm going to just go back to the cookies in my kitchen, and then I go on to start to register a business. What am I actually learning, as opposed to me saying, well, my problem is now I have so many orders and I don't have enough capital to fill them. That's one issue. But then how do I learn to take me from this 7 years problem and move me to the 50 years?
And that's an interesting thing, area. When you say learning, SMEs come in different shapes, sizes. So we usually call, have a call in terms of who are in this particular line of business. So for instance, if you're manufacturing, what kind of conversations can we have with you? We even send surveys out and say, what would you like to learn out of these? As we're structuring the program, as we're looking for partners to be able to structure programs, we ask SMEs, what would you like to learn? What are the topical issues? So for instance, if you think tax is an issue, let's bring tax to the table. And let's bring KRA to the table and have this conversation. But then asking KRA or the bank, these are the typical issues that customers or SMEs would like to hear about, and let's talk about it. Let's demystify it. Let's make sure that they understand it to the language even that they understand. So there are many ways that we can do. We can also pick up from our conversations with corporates, telling us, this is the ecosystem I have, and these are the struggles I have with SMEs. Could you talk to them about it? So corporates also have a space in being able to say, this ecosystem of mine, speak to them about A, B, C, D, because this is the things I see we see are the issues. So it could come from the SMEs, it could come from their partners, it could come from the bank, because we also do see a lot of issues based on how we analyze businesses. If you look at the last 10 years, what are the typical things that we've seen struggles, SMEs have struggled with? What can we do to support them? So for instance, during COVID, we then knew that we had to have a conversation around leadership in crisis. We had a conversation online around taking your business online, because SMEs were not online. And yet COVID taught us, if anything, they taught us we need to be online to be able to survive.
Yeah.
We talked about mental illness. This was something that we could see, taking place. So it's a variety of things that we teach SMEs. And it's not just to speak to the financial base, which is key. And we will speak about cash flows and your backup plans and the structures thereof. But we also do speak a lot about the non-financial pieces that we do see influencing businesses or creating problems and challenges.
Yeah. And one would want to demystify the presence of banks, because for an SME, there is that thought that I need funds to help me grow my business. I go to the bank, but this conversation of sitting down, like City says, has never been there. So in terms of just the bank now, Absa breaking it down for people to know, because that information is not out there for everybody to access it. How do you ensure that as Aseto and Sons, I know where to go for that information?
It's good.
It's more Aseto and cousins.
I hope you have daughters too, because I'm not sure they'd be happy with that one.
Yeah.
But so what we've done different for this particular bank is we've trained the staff on the ground first and foremost, because we had to change the perception not just from the outside but from the inside as well. We've taken a lot of our front-facing staff through training. The back too. I mean, it's just been a whole transformational journey around, do we understand what SMEs look like? Are we prepared for them? I remember one of our customers giving us feedback and saying, guess what, when you have branches that have white marble floors, we fear getting into them because you know what, we are farmers and we're SMEs. We want to walk in
I
and
sell
we
cabbage,
feel, and I feel that I'm going to, be in your space and I'm not accepted. I'm not, I'm not the right person to be here.
Yes.
So we've had to change a lot of things, look and feel, and then said, look, we're not just inviting them to the bank. Can we go out and walk with them? So do we have a whole lot of staff members who walk around, to be with them? And we're not always, in suits and all tied up. We dress down in t-shirts. We share our t-shirts as well. So can we look alike, for instance,
Share t-shirts.
T-shirts. We give out t-shirts so we look alike.
What City is not telling me is he wants a t-shirt.
There you go.
I think that's very interesting because a couple of days ago I was on this other side of I think it's the Gikomba area, and it's heavy the kind of the businesses that people are doing, whether you're talking about selling clothes or you're talking about selling food. We have women who are selling, and are going to come into that conversation later, women who are selling fish, who, when they get out of their boots and whatever, you wouldn't believe it was the same woman who is doing this. But the amount of business that's turning over and rolling over, and for folks who are, kind of hobbling along with this business and are doing so well, I want to imagine now when they have a little bit more in terms of information and capacity, then I think many more businesses would be crossing that 7-year mark that we talk about.
Absolutely.
Whereby you then are moving from just a mini business or a medium-sized business to a full-grown entity that can actually be counted on. So that issue of saying, well, I'm not going to walk into the glass door because will I get the help that I need? That's being broken.
That is being broken. It then speaks to the fact that you can come into the bank and say, listen, I have my group of 10 business people. I want to have a conversation. Can we have a conversation?
Yeah.
And yes, we do have, a banker, an SME banker, a relationship manager who will have those conversations with you. Now, the question is, do we have all the knowledge? Perhaps not. If it's something that is very, important to them and we don't have it, we find partners to go into the conversation with, so that we can have a wholesome conversation. But I say this because in the bank also we have a business club. And in that business club, we encourage businesses to join because, yes, there will be a little more of a fee, because we need to activate and make sure it's sustainable. But the truth is, in that business club, we have a wholesome conversation. We have conversations around, the issues you're having with taxes, how to grow your business to the next level. You want to access markets. We are today taking our customers across the world. This year alone, we've been to new areas like Estonia and Finland, where customers learned a lot. Right now, I have a group of customers who are in the US, also being exposed to the different things, different areas they want to be exposed to, including leadership. Because they are attending, some of the John Maxwell conversations. We've enabled that.
Yeah.
And, we continue that journey because with SMEs, it's not just about teaching. It's also about walking the journey and making sure that they understand, what the industry they're in looks like in the next level and the next level. And they also know they have partners they can reach out to. The truth is a lot of the countries in Asia, they haven't done this because the SMEs haven't grown because they have sat and copied, from the environment they're in.
Yeah.
They've walked the journey of taking them across the world.
And say, how
if
is it
you
being
think
done?
America is the best in this area, if you think Estonia and Finland are good in this area, go benchmark, see. Stand next to them. They're people like us, 2 eyes, 1 nose, 2 ears. But what have they done different? And by seeing, we found that a lot of SMEs are getting to learn. Last year, we took them to South Africa. We looked at the real estate sector. We looked at agriculture, which is a huge area that SMEs are in. But the amount of growth, the amount of sustainability in that area is still limited.
Of course.
So, yes, we do have structures, so to speak to the business club that we have, but we do have an opportunity for customers to come in and say, can we have conversation of smaller groups? And then also the ones that we call on them to have conversations with. And hopefully we can just continue learning.
Indeed.
And learning.
We're going to continue with this conversation. It is now 27 minutes to 9 o'clock. Elizabeth Wasuna Ochwa is the business banking director at Absa Bank PLC, and we're having a conversation this morning about capacity building in the SME sector, what it actually means, so then who can access what you do, what you learn. We'll come back right after this and continue with that conversation.
This is the situation. When I have back pain, I reach for 2 tablets of Panadol Extra. It's boosted by caffeine for fast relief of strong pain, like headache, toothache, and muscle pain. And I am finally released from pain and ready to be there for those who need me. Try Panadol Extra for fast and effective relief from strong pain.
This man threatened us to come here and make a false statement against that lady.
I'll be jailed.
You won't go to jail. Not as long as I'm here. No matter what. I will not let you go to jail for this. I'll even take the blame.
You want to get me punished? Huh? What evidence do you have on me? Hey!
No one can ever take your place in my life, Arjun. No one.
Kupata wimbo huu kama skiza, bonyeza *811 *917 hash. Nitarudia *811 *917 hash. Kumbuka hapa KTN ndio home.
Our guest today is a multi-award-winning lifestyle content creator. How big is your space?
The house is a 2-bedroom, so it's a duplex. So we have the bedrooms at the top, and then in the bottom we have the other stuff like the living room and the kitchen.
It's a showstopper. It looks like a heart.
Yeah.
Such a statement.
Real quick, send it to the click. Wow, the place is sick.
Sasa nikuulize. Hii daka umekuwa unacheza how long?
Unajua hii daka nimeambiwa na rafiki yangu Chusi. Sasa nikasema acha nicharibu. Hata sasa sitamaliza miezi 3. Mimi ni mmoja Bernard Korir. Natoka Transmara.
Niliwaambia napeana 100k. Ndo hii ingine. Hii pesa unaona ikikusaidia aje?
Nilikuwa napanga kuanza biashara lakini sikuwa na capital. Sasa nimeangukia.
Biashara gani hiyo unataka?
Nilikuwa na target ya biashara ya kuanza ya nguo. Watu wangu. Nimeamini sasa. Daka ya mamili ni ukweli kabisa.
Ulicheza na ngapi?
Mimi nitumia mbao. Ndio natumia mbao nikatumia mbao.
Unasema hukutupa mbao.
Omoka na daka mamili every 20 minutes. Multiply bet yako times 5,000 kila draw. Ukicheza na 20 bob only una daka laki yako. 40 bob wins you 200,000. Ukicheza na 100 unashinda nusu milioni. Millions to be won every day. Cheza daka, pesa bika na washindi. Ni rahisi. Nenda kwenye paybill 440 account KTN, amount shilingi 20 hadi shilingi 2,000 and get your cash direct to your M-Pesa. Cheza daka.
Plug it, consistently learn, and more so get to unlearn the bad behaviors that you've embraced over time. So encouraging SMEs really to consistently learn. I mean, even today, as I said, I'm also learning. So the more you know, the better it is to be able to manage that, and Absa is able to support in those conversations.
There's this matter of, the matter I speak of became perhaps more noticeable immediately after COVID and during COVID, defaults in terms of what people borrowed and what they could not pay. When we talk about these conversations, and especially with business, people who are in business, how exactly or what strategy does Absa have when it comes to addressing this issue? Because it is an issue.
Yeah, it is an issue, and the truth of the matter is it's an issue that we have to manage very carefully. Because when we're giving feedback on a decline, it touches on egos. It touches on the essence of somebody. When you're coming to look for a loan, or when I'm declining the loan, or I'm giving you information, it really is touching in the core. Because let me say, a lot of SMEs, and not just SMEs, a lot of businesses, when you come in, you've prayed about it, you've fasted, you've gotten other people to support you.
Sold the body parts.
I mean, it's your passion, you believe in it, and you come to the bank and you want money. And then I say, okay, this money you're asking for doesn't have the structure to support it. I can see already pitfalls, I can see problems. Have you resolved these problems? And that part of feedback is what I think banks and organizations have to get better at. Because the problems we're seeing today are as a result of not being able to give an SME the right, the risk issues that they need to take care of. And if they go through those problems, then who is going to support them? How do you have conversations? Because the truth, when you say default, there's a lot of defaults took place because SMEs did not feel that they had a partner who they could go back to. Yeah. And they didn't feel that they could have a conversation that was open and could tell you everything that they were going through. Normally they come and tell you this portion that they think you can be able to resolve, but the bigger portion is not resolved. I've gotten, I've fired my workers, but no, I have a problem with money that needs to buy, this and that. But the issue is you don't have the support. Even if I give you the money, you're not going to be able to deliver your business.
But what if I've changed? By the time I've come to you,
Yes.
you see, we said we fasted, we prayed.
Yes.
Yeah.
We sorted out these issues. By the time I'm coming to you, I have sorted out my issues. Me and the Lord, we're on the right path.
Same WhatsApp group.
Yes, same WhatsApp.
Like this. So how am I convincing you, Elizabeth, that truly the closeted conversations that I've had with the
Back to
Lord?
the prayer center.
And now, but this is my question. How do you know that I have not? Because a lot of these things are made as a result of resolve.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
That you have resolved to do 1, 2, 3
Yeah.
and to take it seriously. And we're not just dealing with brick and mortar in a lot of these cases, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you said, you've poured your blood, sweat, guts into this thing.
Yeah.
And even that you may have made, business mistakes in the past or whatever, you've resolved to do it. So how do you make the connection between Elizabeth, who's crunching the numbers? Elizabeth is looking at the numbers. You're not looking at my heart. How do you do that?
So look, this is a relationship.
Yeah.
It's not just a hit and go. It's a relationship. When you come to borrow money, you're borrowing over a period of time. And the more we know about how you're managing your business, the more we can be able to support you. So the conversations you need to find organizations, banks, persons in those banks that can be able to understand. What we've done differently for Absa is we've trained a lot of the people who are on the front line to ask these questions, not from from up down. We are on the same page. We are partners. Let's even walk to your business. Let me see what you're doing. So it's a relationship that we need to build over time. And when we ask, of the different things that you're doing and the challenges that we've had, it's not because we want to beat you down. We need to understand, where have you come from and where do you want to go to? And from our perspective and our, experience, we can be able to tell you this is likely to be an issue.
Okay.
So, for instance, during COVID, a lot of customers came and said, I want to buy a building, I want to buy this and that. But from understanding a COVID period it's not an opportunity for you to invest your money necessarily in brick and mortar. We didn't know how long COVID was going to be. You needed to look at your cash flows. How are you going to be able to support these customers or your staff members, for instance, if we don't go back to business fully in the next year? When we started off COVID, we thought it was going to be a 3-week problem.
Yeah.
And then we were going to snap back into... Look, COVID is affecting us until today.
Yes.
So we see things from that perspective, from a risk, issue perspective. And we need customers and SMEs just to understand that when we ask you to open out what your situation is to fully understand and to walk the journey with you, so that even if you come back and say, guess what, I built my building up to this level, now I need more. I know what you've been through. I know the pains, and I can be able to extend to you this amount only because this is what you can afford. That affordability conversation is not easy because, again, a lot of customers or SMEs want to grow fast, very fast, and it's not sustainable if you don't have the right structures.
Elizabeth, in your training of your clients, do you train them to understand how banks work and how banks think?
It's not always easy, eh? It's not always easy.
Because we approach, we as customers, we come with our knowledge. Remember the prayer warriors we have backing up or whatever?
Yes.
And our knowledge of, faith over matter and reality and so forth. Now, when it clashes with the reality that the bank now presents you with, it would help tremendously if one had knowledge that this is how a bank thinks. This is what they will do. These are things they will not do. This is the conversation you have.
So that conversation can't take place adequately at the point of your need, when you need it. Because SMEs normally come and ask you the money. I'm applying today, but I need the money tomorrow. Or even I need it by the end of the day.
Yes.
That conversation can't take place there because they're going to be clashes. I encourage SMEs to get involved in that conversation of understanding what banks are, what they need, what they require early.
I urge banks to take that conversation to the clients.
Absolutely.
So that they understand it early. Because, you see, where it morphs into, and why I started with the default, is because of my understanding. Yes. Now, again, part of it is historical.
Yes.
I grew up at a time when banks wrote you letters.
Yes.
You know what you owe. You see, it's that letter. You take a week to open it.
Yeah.
You really don't want to know what's inside.
She's emotional.
Yes.
By the time you open it, the 7-day notice has lapsed.
It's lapsed, yes.
So you have a new problem.
Now you're under pressure.
Yet, The letter is just to inform you there is a problem. Come. Let's have a conversation. But the letter doesn't say that.
Yeah.
You see, it is from that perspective that I say that when people understand that whatever the problem is, you can actually go to the bank and still talk to them. It doesn't really matter how big it is. Running away and not being seen doesn't help. Just go. What is the worst that can happen? Get into that. Now, for me to say this, do you know the hoops I had to go through to actually get to the point where I actually understand this?
Yeah. You know, you're spot on that, because it's not in the bank's interest to sell your property.
It's not their business either.
It's not their business either.
Yes.
But the question is, when you're going through a tough time, do you switch off your phone? Because a lot of people switch off their phones.
Immediately.
Yeah. Take on a new number, run away.
Immediately.
But that is the best time to come back and say, this is my situation. This is what I've committed to pay. Because the willingness to pay is there. The ability to pay is what is not there. So the question is, based on what I have, can we have a conversation that speaks to getting me out of this problem? Because we are partners. That conversation today is one that we are willing to have. Are we doing the best we can? Perhaps there's a lot more that we can do. But starting the journey in terms of having that conversation is important. A lot of customers during COVID time, for instance, benefited from us being able to give them, longer periods to repay their facility. Moratorium periods as well. You know, what can we do different? What support do you require? Can you go for this kind of trade? We had those conversations, and a lot of them, by and large, have come out of it. Conversations sometimes speak to us telling you, look, you need to liquidate something, because where you're going is difficult, or what we're seeing is difficult. You need to be able to pay off this, because if you don't, it's not sustainable. And it just exposes you to the challenges that you're having. And what you do thereafter is something that, depends on how the feedback was given. Yeah.
There's this little subject of debt purchasing strategies.
Yes.
Do you talk to your clients about this?
Yes.
Because even if someone is in business and they were going through a hard time, it doesn't mean it's going to be a constant.
No.
Things may have changed, and they may not be able to do what they did before, but they now can do something.
Yeah. That conversation usually is a story about, yes, I come and say, can you buy off this? Can you consolidate this? But the question is, before you get there, it's not just about the willingness to repay. It's the ability to repay that we need to understand from an SME perspective. What do you have? What are your plans around your ability to repay? And that is an area where, a lot more, we can do a lot more.
Okay.
I believe, because, sometimes when customers come to us and say, I'm willing to pay, I can demonstrate it. I've shown you. But then I say, okay, show me what you're doing that will give me the view that over the next 3 months or 10 months or a year, you will be able to repay.
All right.
And that's where things sort of like fall apart. And we're willing to have those conversations and trainings to support SMEs.
Yeah. You've raised something to do with exposure, taking your clients outside the country. You've talked about Estonia, and Estonia we know is big on matters technology.
Yes,
now let's talk about the fact that the biggest population we have in the country right now is the young people, and the young people predominantly youth technology, and looking at how they will sell their wares, engaged in matters technology, and also the thinking around marginalized groups or women as well in this conversation. So how are you meeting the youth where they are, which is on TikTok?
Yeah, we don't run away from TikTok. And we are present as an organization on some of these platforms. So the thing is, like I mentioned, for youth, we don't wait we actually go to the colleges. Okay. We are partnering with a lot of the universities in the country to make sure that we can start having those conversations there and then. You'll be surprised at how innovative they are from that perspective. And they then start the journey of being able to open accounts, being able to have trainings, and therefore start their businesses with the right footing and the right pillars to be able to manage. Like I said, we also do have partners. So we do partner with Chamber of Commerce, because they have a bigger reach than we do. And when they have programs, we also bring in our clients in those conversations. We also take on their clients, and we do these things jointly. We also do this together with government, because, we go with government around. I know last year, towards the end, we went around with Madam Harriet Chigaya from the Office of the President. And this was specifically around the women conversation. We went to Kakamega and invited 250 women, but at the end of the session, we had 600 women. We don't shy away from training.
Right.
Yes, because women don't go alone.
No.
We normally go with your pals as well. So the training conversations continue. And it's a conversation that doesn't stop. We hope to continue with those. The only thing is that we can't, with the magnitude of demand,
yes,
we need partners. And we are always looking for partners who are willing to put skin in the game as well, who understand the value of training and supporting SMEs across board, because there are challenges and we can't run away from those. So we constantly need programs that can be able to support them. It's another partner we have, Millennium Capital, who are also willing to have these conversations online, We have platforms that we can have these conversations. So all you need is, sometimes it's just your phone. You can be called into a center. We can come to you. I think it's important that SMEs know that we are there and available. Walk into any branch, reach us on social media, tell us what you need, and let's have a conversation.
And how's the conversation around you are an SME, you are running a business, and a business in any way is there to solve a certain problem. So when you're having these discussions with the SMEs, how easy is it to circumnavigate the issue of what solution are you giving to what problem?
Yeah. Again, we have those conversations with partners. Because remember, we don't have all those expertise. So we find partners that can be able to understand and help customers. And that speaks to the mentoring and coaching, because you can learn it in class, but executing is a different thing. So mentoring and coaching then allows us to have continuous conversations post the trainings to ensure that you've learned, you have been able to, to deliver on what is necessary for your business to thrive, and can have more intimate conversations. But joining a business club at the bank also helps you see other businesses that have walked your journey, and don't reinvent the wheel, don't make the same mistakes, move forward. And so I also encourage SMEs and different organizations to come to us and tell us, we think we can do this with you. We can partner with you on this. And a lot of them have been reaching out, to be honest, to allow us to do what we do today and to see the successes that we have today. So it's a partnership.
Right.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this conversation, we talked about the fact that there are entire economies that are run on the power of SMEs, that the government can set up structures and see that, the environment is conducive. But at the end of the day, the folks who are really pushing this economy for them to be able to stand up in the world and be counted are SMEs. So if you look at here where we are we in the blocks to be able to get to the place whereby Kenya's economy really can be pushed?
I would say in different levels of success, and there's some areas that we could do a lot better. I think our challenge is, in the last couple of years, we bombarded SMEs with a lot of training, and it's not a sustainable platform. We don't have a sustainable structure. So I encourage a lot of our partners to say, when we're in this journey, don't come and hit and run. It's something we have to be intentional, and we have to put in money, and we have to be able to put in even resources and structure to ensure that as you engage with SMEs. So for instance, SMEs in agriculture, if you came in and today and trained them on how to use a certain machinery, it's not enough. You've got to be able to talk to them about, what about insurance? What about soil? What about, what are the things, the challenges? So it's got to be a structure that speaks to where you are and walking the journey over the next year, 2 years, 3 years. And finding such partners isn't easy today, because, partners come forward with different aims. But I would encourage them to really invest in SMEs, because we do have a potential to change this country in a lot of ways. Moving SMEs from being able to borrow 1,000 shillings off a platform to being able to borrow 100,000 with a structure that allows them to grow is a better conversation to have.
There's this little aspect of education with regards to financial matters and banking. Before you get to the point where you can borrow money, you need to grow up and become an adult and probably earn some money. Children, the understanding of banking, school children, university. Because if our relationship with banking begins early, we are able to manage this process better when we're older. That is true. But most of us begin this journey when you're employed. When you already have fixed ideas of what money should do and how you should manage your money.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. So how are we doing that? Ready to Work program is already in place. We go into universities, we have these conversations. It is true that we're managing our money the way our parents and our grandparents probably did. If your father was burnt at some point, a loan went bad, the chances are you'll be told, do not Do not borrow. Under any circumstance, do not borrow. But guess what? A lot of these organizations, the big corporates, there is no way they would be where they are if they didn't borrow. It's how to borrow responsibly. Know what are the parameters. Know what is, what you cannot do, what you should not do with that money. Yeah, and those things we're trying the best we can to teach as early as university, and also in schools, because we get called in to have conversations around savings.
Yeah,
and Kenyans were not very good in savings. Let's be honest. That is another area that we need to start with. As an SME, what have you saved? What are you putting? What's your skin in the game as far as your savings is concerned? Have you invested? Or are you just borrowing off a platform? Sometimes the interest rates are very high and it's not sustainable. That shouldn't be the place you should borrow from.
Sometimes.
The first place,
yeah.
Always.
Yeah. That's a separate conversation. But there's a time and a place for everything. It's just a question is, do you know? Yeah. And the more you know, the more we teach you, the more we engage, perhaps the better.
Yeah. You have book clubs, you have agricultural clubs, you have 4K clubs, banking clubs in schools. Because if it's something that you interact with on a daily basis, it starts you on that journey well. And the discussion of savings becomes a much easier conversation when you've already interacted with that particular process.
Yeah, you don't have fear.
No,
the fear is not there.
You look at it very, very differently.
It's true.
I mean,
it's true.
I think even back in the days, piggy banking, it is you guys who came up with that. I don't know where it went to, but perhaps
it's still there. We still have.
The pig grew up.
Yeah. The pig grew up. Yes, but it's a whole conversation, and I think it's to speak to reaching out to any of our branches, to the branch managers, the business bankers. We are all ready to have those conversations with children, with adults, young adults, to ensure that we are preparing ourselves for the SME conversation and into the corporate conversation, because I believe SMEs can grow into being corporates. And then it's not just a Kenya conversation. We have a conversation across the region, because we do tend to be ahead of the game. We can share. We always say sharing is caring. And make sure that in that conversation also we're supporting women, youth, people with disabilities. We have conversations for the women that I spoke to earlier, and which is we're big on. And just be saying that we have a business proposition. We call it SHE program. And SHE stands for See Her Empowered. And we've had different, apart from just the SME conversation, we've tried to make sure that women also can have conversations in areas that they think they need support, areas we think they need support, in the 4 pillars that we've spoken to. But making sure that we tweaked it and made sure that it's aligned to what women require.
I mean, this is refreshing to just understand that, look, there's a place that we can aspire to be, and beyond just aspiring, the things that we can do in the interim to ensure that we do get there. I mean, and the work that Absa is doing to make sure that, businesses and in that ecosystem are then being fueled is amazing, and good for us to continue to have these conversations. So thank you for being here with us this morning. Elizabeth Wasuna Ochwa is the Business Banking Director at Absa Bank, and has been here discussing, buffering, boosting the SME sector. Thank you very much for coming, and we hope to have more conversations around this soon.
Thank you.
Good morning. It's 9 a.m.